Hello and welcome, folks. This is going to be a fairly quick session on a new chatbot we've developed in partnership with Lourdes College that I'm excited to show you. And towards the end of the session, we can have time for Q&A, but I'm just going to jump right into it. And I'll explain it as we go, and I'll talk a little bit about the architecture as we go as well. This was developed by our team in the Philippines. The developer on this one is Cairo Minerva, and he deserves great credit for putting this together. So, as you know, my name is Nicholas Kelly with Delivering Data Analytics, and this is a specific version of the faith chatbot we've developed. It's a conversational AI. This one is more tailored towards the Catholic faith, though it can be tailored towards specific belief systems or faiths based off whatever the source documents are that it's being given to use. So with that in mind, let's just jump into it. And the first thing you're going to notice is it's a fairly simple interface. So the front of this is like quickly just explains what it is, what the source documents are. So for this one, we're looking at the King James Bible. We've got the ASV and web versions as well as Catholic specific materials, the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and RVM documents as well. So again, this could be tailored specific to whatever documents that are being used to supply the conversational AI that we built here. You can see as well, there's a few examples of things that you can ask. So you could ask scripture related questions. What does John 3:16 say? Show me Psalm 23. So very specific. And as you'll see in the demo, we're going to kind of go through these three different approaches to the types of questions you can ask. The teachings. So what is the Holy Trinity? So it's a little bit more open-ended, a little bit broader. Tell me about the sacraments. And then questions pertaining to spiritual life. The examples here: how do I pray the rosary? And what is confession? So you can see you can go from very specific to quite detailed, high-level questions as well, right? So let's just get into it and ask some of these specific questions. So what is Jeremiah 29:11 in the web translation? Now, something interesting to note here is that this all runs off our hardware, our own servers. This isn't running in the public cloud. And you can see it's quite fast. It comes back with a pretty quick response. So it's snappy because it's running off our hardware. And you can see the answer it's quite friendly, right? So it says, for you, my friend. It gives you then this interpretation of what it is. And everything here is properly cited. Now, that's one of the advantages of the architecture that we've ended up using. So there's two ways you can build conversational AIs. First is you can do fine-tuning, which is, if you think about this in terms of if you're taking a test, and there's sort of two types of tests you can take. One is an open book test where you can look in the textbook that you're being tested on, and can find the exact page of the answer you're looking for and the exact specific phrases or paragraphs where the answer is. And so exactly, you can exactly cite the source material. The other way of taking a test, of course, is memorizing. And you might know exactly the source material. You might know the general sense of it. You might know the answer. But these two types of AI, the first one is called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which you can be very specific. And you might have heard of this term hallucination, where a large language model can make stuff up. You get less of that with the retrieval augmented generation approach, and you can manage it a little bit better. The other approach is what we're sort of used to in large language models, which is called fine-tuning, and you basically train the large language model. So we're using the RAG approach. And so that's why you see quite a bit of this, where as we go through this demo, you're going to see very specific references. Indeed, references are built in to the prompts that you get back. So in this case, we're getting a summary of the verse. So we're seeing it specifically here. The exact citation For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says Yahweh, and so on. And then it gives a little bit of an interpretation. This verse offers us comfort and assurance that God has good plans for each one of us. So it's doing two things here. We can also, like, gives you the exact quotation, but then also some interpretation of it. And then finally, it gives the source. So specifically where it's coming from. Something to note here as well is that every prompt answer, you can give it some reinforcement training. So you can say you liked it, didn't like it, right? Or you just want to copy the response. And this is obviously going to help it get a little bit better. Let's ask another more specific question. Quote the verses found in 1 Peter and let's say 5:10 to 14. And we're going to give it the specific version. So we're going to go with the ASV translation. Now, when we were building this, we have to avoid copyright, of course. So some of the material that's the Catholic faith is based on different translations of the Bible. The ones that are more recent are copywritten, unfortunately. So we have to be very careful about those things. So we've avoided any copywritten material. So you can see here as well in this, we're getting the specific quotes, right, from each of the verses. And we're also able to like the exact specific verses that you're getting here, as well as where it's coming from. Now, since we asked where it's coming from, it's kind of obvious, right? But it kind of gives you that sense of reassurance that it is actually pulling from the source material. So let's go slightly broader, ask it a question. What is the meaning of the Eucharist? And obviously this one's a little bit broader, more open to interpretation. So what it's going to do is it's going to go find references that in the Bible or in all the documents that this has available to it for any messaging or meaning definition of the Eucharist. And again, it's pretty quick because it's running off our hardware. And another benefit of doing that is that it's protected from influence. It's secure from other documents, other trainings, other outside influence. And we can see here again, we're getting this interpretation. And for everywhere there's an interpretation, it's giving the citation, and this one's coming from the Catechism, right? You can see multiple here, citations from the Catechism. And here's a summary. In essence, it's a way for us to express our gratitude to God for all his benefits. So it's obviously quite powerful, right? And you can see how fast it is. If you need to get specific citations, or you're even asking for something a little bit more broad, like a definition, you're also getting it here with the citations as well. So let's also ask something broad. And let's go with purgatory. Let's ask for a definition, but we're going to ask for a definition according to the Catechism. So this one's obviously more Catholic specific. And it's going to go search through the documents that it's trained on and then come back with a definition for purgatory. So we'll give that a few seconds while it's thinking. And it should be popping up now. My dear friend, let me share with you what the Catechism tells us about purgatory. According to the Church, purgatory is the final purification of the elect, which happens after death. It's also giving a specific citation for that. And here it gives also a summary interpretation of what it is as well. So it's giving specific definitions from various passages with citations. And then as well, as usual, we can see the references down below as well. So you can dive into that in detail. So let's ask something maybe a little bit more topical, maybe more challenging. And this one is, let's just go with something that's someone's needing some more guidance, maybe. So I've lost my purpose in life. Can you help me find meaning? And it's someone struggling with maybe faith or a crisis of their faith. And let's see what it comes back with. It should be uplifting, helpful, maybe supportive, and give some guidance based off what the teachings are in the material here that is trained on. So as well as that, we'll jump into something a little bit broader after this as well. And later on, we'll do something related to like a completely off-topic question that it really isn't able to answer. And when you ask large language models things it doesn't know the answer to, often it's going to give you an answer anyway. It's going to hallucinate. I'm going to show you in this one how it doesn't hallucinate, and it will just tell you it doesn't know. So this one, it's coming back with some uplifting information. God has a plan for each one of us, right? So it's getting a citation from Jeremiah, and we can see other related topics here as well. So it's giving references to passages that might help the person that's asking that question. And as well, as usual, every single prompt response here is referenced and properly sourced in the source material. So let's go with something, maybe like you're wondering, like, as a Catholic might, right? Can you tell me a glimpse of the life of Mother Ignatia? And so it's going to go find in the source materials anything related to that question that it can come back with. And again, it's not going to make stuff up, right? Like this, it's been, because of the architecture, it's not going to go and try and interpret what it is. If it doesn't have good answers for it, it's going to actually go find the source material. If it doesn't have the source material, it'll tell us. So let's see what it comes back with for this question on a glimpse of the life of Mother Ignatia. Okay, so quite a bit of detail here. She was a remarkable woman who discerned her vocation at the age of 21, inspired by her spiritual director. So her life was marked by prayer, labor, service to others. Throughout her life, she centered herself on the suffering of Christ and tried to imitate him through humility and service. And we can see then where this material is coming from. It's coming from the RVM, right, the RVM archives. So there's quite a bit of detail here on her life. Now, it's not overly verbose as well. So that was one of the things that we were tuning on the AI is, you can get it to come back with lots and lots of detail, or very little detail. And we sort of opted for this amount and found it a happy medium. Let's ask it more of a definition type of question. And what is the religious of the Virgin Mary? And it's a high level definition. So it's not like, tell me what the specific meaning of this is, or tell me a specific passage and what it says. This one, we're going fairly high level, and we're asking for a definition of something that's quite broad. So abbreviated is RVM. It's a Catholic centralized religious institute for women. It was founded in Manila, Philippines, 1684. Right, so it has all these details about it. And again, it's giving all the citations, and then we can see that it's also referencing the catechism. So there's a few pieces here that's bringing together different source materials. And you can also see like it's specific paragraphs from the catechism as well that you can go and reference. So the beauty of this is that you can get your high-level answers here, and if you want to dive into it further, you can either go to the source material or just ask it to cite the source material, so you can get it right here, so you don't have to go jumping around into different locations in different places. So let's ask it something that it shouldn't be able to answer, and this again goes back to the architecture of how this is built. So we're going to ask it something. Let's ask it about COVID. I have these symptoms and I think I'm suffering from COVID. Can you diagnose them? And it shouldn't give like an answer on how you would go about diagnosing them. It should really just do what it can within the context that it has available to it, but it shouldn't be giving medical advice. So let's see what it comes back with, and this will probably be pretty quick. Yeah. I'm not a medical professional, so I can't provide medical advice. And that's what we would expect, right? So you're not going to look to this to give you medical advice. Now, if this was a fine-tuned large language model, it would try and attempt to come back with a response, right? And obviously that may not be a good response. So let's just jump over to some of the features on the left and, a little bit more detail. You can see that the various source materials that we have available to us are you can pick, right? And you can see what is your default translation. So if you just were to ask it a question and you want to cite what source material you want it to come from, it's going to come from the King James Version of the Bible. Now, the reason, this is like a Catholic conversational AI. So why the King James Bible? The Bibles that are approved, or the versions of the Bible that are approved by the Catholic Church, are copywritten. So we can't put them in here. And however, the Catechism is not, the RVM is not. So they are all in here. And we are actually working on an older version of the Bible that is public domain and that we can use, that's approved for the Catholic Church. So that will be on the way. But you will see that in the default translation dropdown. So you can see all the source materials that it's pulling from, and then you can pick the default one. So we've got also the American Standard Version, the World English Bible as well. So you can see some of those, and you can pick which one's the default one. Some settings down here, so you can show the timestamps on the messages if you care to. You can turn them off. You can have the citations expanded by default if you want as well. So it'll automatically show you where those are coming from. And you can also then see some of the statistics if you're that way inclined, if you want to look at some of the data behind the usage and how you're using the chatbot, it'll give you some of those details. Now, down here as well, you can also just clear your conversation history if you want, and I'll do that in a second. If you have questions, you need some help, right? Gives you just some example questions, gives you access to the source material if you want to go research it yourself and dive into it. But let's head down and just clear the conversation and get rid of the history. And by doing so, we just basically reset it back to the start here. And yeah, there we are. That's the high level of the Catholic Faith Chatbot. Like I said earlier, like a lot of this stuff we can actually tailor this to be focused on any religion, and it's all just based on the source documents. So it's really up to us where we want to go with it. So yeah, I just want to shout out to, we're at the end, so we have time for a few questions if anyone wants to jump in. Just say hello to Ma'am Nathalie there. Good morning, and it's good evening for me. Good morning in the Philippines. Hope you're all doing great over there. And it's been a pleasure working with the Lourdes College and the team over there, and putting this together. Lots more to come, of course. This is early days, and I'm looking forward to building this out further and being more robust as well. So if there's any questions, folks, happy to take them now. All right. Okay, I got a couple there. Let me just read through them first. Right. Okay. So, so since this is based on RAG, why did you not use fine tuning? Okay, fair enough. Well, a couple of reasons. So we wanted to keep this very flexible, and there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's sort of like two ways you can approach this. Fine tuning is faster, right? So if you ask a fine-tuned large language model, it'll come back with an answer probably a little bit quicker. The challenge is it's just harder to deal with hallucinations and making stuff up. So that gets harder. The other part of that as well is it takes a lot more effort to fine tune. And then if you want to make changes and tweaks along the way, you again have to go through this effort, right? And it's costly and it takes time. And obviously it takes GPU resources. The benefit of doing retrieval augmented generation is that it's much easier to change the source material over time if we wanted to add more in here. Like, for example, we're going to add in some different translations of the Bible that's more appropriate for Catholics, and an 1899 version, I believe, is in the public domain. So that's going to be quite straightforward for us to add in. It's not going to be very hard to do that. So that's one of the benefits of RAG. Okay. Any other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat. Yeah, that other question sort of related to what I just answered, so we can skip that one. Let's see. Okay, well, is there going to be a cloud-based version of this? No, we're not putting. So it's effectively for the end user. There won't be any difference. Like putting this on our hardware. So we own the servers, we own the GPUs. So we basically own the infrastructure. Several reasons we do it, but one reason is we want to be able to have total control of to have no concerns that this is being influenced by any third party. We want to have confidence that the teachings, in this case, the Catholic teachings, are not influenced from other third parties, right? So we can manage that if we own the hardware. Also, if we own the hardware, we can also manage the performance and speed much better. And you saw it's quick, right? So we're like looking at sort of 10 seconds to get a response, and compare that to imagine you had to go look that up on the web, or you had to go search through a actual physical Bible, right? It's going to take a lot longer than that. So I think it's not even a compromise. It's an approach you can take that if you have the resources, you should do it. And we definitely recommend people should, when they're doing this kind of work, should own their own hardware. Great question. Thank you. Okay, folks, if there are no more questions, I'm going to wrap this up, and allow me just say thanks again to Lourdes College for your partnership. It's been a real pleasure, and I'd say we'll be launching this in the coming weeks. So we'll be, this was just like a sort of high-level demo of it, but we'll be doing a proper launch of this in a few weeks once we've got everything buttoned up and we've got the more specific Catholic Bible translation that we're all more comfortable using, as well as just launching it in general and making it available to people, test it out and demo it and see if it works for you. And any questions you have in future, just reach out to us. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. Happy to answer any more questions. So thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.